So I've been playing Silent Hill. Now, it doesn't take more than a quick look at my channel to figure out that I may just be a little bit of a Silent Hill fan. And while I, in some ways at least, totally am, I'm also a filthy hack fraud. You see, I've never actually played the OG low poly, low texture as dicks Silent Hill on the PS1. Or, well, I played a little bit of it back when I was like 10 or something, but it was scary and also old, and therefore it sucked dick. Thusly, I never actually finished it, let alone remembered much of it. So yeah, turn on your radios and lose your ability to speak properly, cause we bouts to review Silent Hill up in this bitch, yo. I'm never doing that again. I'm sorry. The story of Silent Hill stars this horribly deformed half-penguin, half-Lego man, Harry Mason. After doing some mad drifts and getting crunk, Harry wakes up well hungover like in his car with his daughter missing and also missed. A lot of mist. And so, Harry goes on an epic quest to find his missing daughter Cheryl. Now, while I absolutely love the story of Silent Hill 2 and all of its twisted mindfuckery, I have to admit that the story in this isn't quite as clever. The thing is that somewhere in between the voice acting and the rather unusual writing, there sits a cult. So basically, all of the really beautiful, creepy looking stuff gets explained away by it just being a bunch of assholes dicking around in a church. And I really don't dig this premise. Like, it does have some really cool and interesting characters, and the amount of mystery surrounding the town is pretty great as well. But the main plotline involving the cult is nowhere near as intelligent as what the later games came up with.
Sybil,
The demon is awakening, spreading those wings.
The voice acting, however, is fucking amazing. Harry's portrayal of a cardboard box is fucking incredible, and it truly rivals the likes of Johnny Depp and Steven Seagal in terms of character acting. All joking aside though, while I'd argue that the bit with the cult is just a wee bit awkward and uninteresting, it doesn't really impact the game all that much, as I'm guessing that Team Silent may have felt a bit unsure about the story themselves. Although, if that really is the case, then it does beg the question of why they brought it back in Silent Hill 3. But in any case, what I'm trying to say is that it just doesn't really matter, as the experience is still pretty freaking gripping regardless. Because of all the really well executed moments, and also because of how incredibly oppressive and or beautiful the game's atmosphere is. Anyway, vague abstract concepts like atmosphere, story, and Danny DeVito
for the game!
are all well and good, but considering that this is a video game, there needs to be some fucking game to go along with said video. And in this case, it is a game of the survival horror variety. So what you do is look around for items that'll lead to puzzles that'll give way to keys with which you open doors that are locked, all the while flailing your freakish Lego hands at zombie midgets and the local wildlife. You'll get some guns as well, but God only knows how Harry's able to actually fucking hold that shit with his wicked claw hands. And overall, it's a fairly standard survival horror game. Though, in a way, it's not quite as arcadey as the Resident Evils of the time, as it's a bit more about linear progression through a number of areas, rather than it being about you dicking around in a single location. Anyway, while I absolutely love Silent Hill 2 and 3, I have to admit that I was a bit apprehensive about playing this, I mean, based off of the visuals alone, I was a bit scared that it would have aged very poorly and thus be a lot less fun to go back to. And, well, it's really not all that bad, all things considered. In fact, I'd actually argue that it holds up pretty well overall. But there are a few things that I'd say that the series definitely improved with over time that didn't really work out all that well in this one. Mainly the controls being rather stiff. Oh yeah, nice and hard. Now, I know that this is likely intentional to some degree, but the fact that this is smoothed out considerably in the second and third installments makes me think that this is also due to a slight case of old. Although, more so than just the controls being iffy, it may also have to do with the rather poor animation quality. Like, Harry just never moves like a real person. When he walks, when he runs, when he fights or shoots, he always has this really weird penguin dinosaur-esque quality to his movements, thus making your inputs feel a little bit awkward. I mean, in Silent Hill 2 or 3, I never died simply because I had trouble navigating a hallway and was backed into a corner because of it. And here, that happened quite a handful of times, and it feels kinda cheap to me. It does make the monsters a lot more threatening, so it's not like it's all bad, but playing the games out of sequence, it's very clear that this is the first game in a series that massively improved itself with its second installment. As a way to kinda make up for this though, the auto-aim in this is fucking insane, and you get a fairly large amount of ammo as well. In most other Silent Hill games, I always found myself preferring melee and saved my guns for the bosses. But here, I felt more inclined to just shoot, as it's by far the better option control-wise. In any case, whether or not you choose to hit things with a stick or shoot motherfuckers in the face, something that does suck pretty fucking bad is the rather indecisive frame rate. Like, during menus for instance, it almost looks like the game runs close to 120 frames per second. Which is quite jarring, as everything outside of the menus seems to run anywhere in between 30 to 20 frames per second. In a way, this actually adds to the grimy, grainy, gritty visuals, as there's definitely a certain charm to running through the dark with Harry walking like he's drunk all the fucking time. But because of this, the monsters can also be quite annoying, as they're quick to get a hit in on you even if you're just passing by, or as I already said, they can gank the living fuck out of you as you're trying to negotiate your way out of a rather unfortunate corner. Later games in the series would introduce separate difficulty settings for combat and puzzles. And playing this, I suddenly remembered why I restarted Silent Hill 3 on easy while playing it for the first time, because holy fucking shit. Like, it's not super duper hard or anything, it's just that, to me at least, getting killed while on the move or getting gangbanged into a corner just doesn't feel fair or challenging or even good at all. It disrupts the flow of the puzzles, and more often than not, it shits on the atmosphere as well. In terms of difficulty here though, I did some snooping around and found that, unlike most survival horror games, setting it to easy won't actually affect/ruin the puzzles. So, I don't think that there's any shame in playing the game on easy if the combat just seems a bit too awkward and messy to you, cause in a lot of ways it just kind of is. Either way, the game is more about puzzle solving anyway, and luckily it completely nails this right up the bumhole. It does kinda do that thing where you'll just be bumping into the solutions rather than solving them yourself, as there are still only a couple of items per area, but they definitely did a good job of making it feel like it was always working towards something. So that's nice, I guess. Anyway, yeah, this game is surprisingly great still. I feel a bit weird saying that considering how well renowned it is, but the dated impression it gave really only limits itself to screenshots. Sure, Harry looks a bit goofy and it may be a bit unintentionally stiff, but as a survival horror game and certainly as a Silent Hill game, it actually holds up rather well. It's like the creators recognized its weaknesses and therefore they decided to focus on them as little as possible. It really makes the few flaws the game has stand out nowhere near as much as they potentially could have. I'd still say that Silent Hill 2 and 3 are definitely better games in a lot of ways, but this game set out to do a very specific thing, and it succeeded in doing said thing with flying colors. Look at them go. There they are, flying away. Quite often, I've confessed my love for how grimy and grungy yet calm and beautiful the Silent Hill games tend to be. And this game isn't really any different, despite clearly being a lot older. In fact, in some ways, I might even argue that the PS1 vibe actually adds to it quite substantially. It's almost like an art style of its very own in this case, and it really brings the town of Silent Hill to life in a very unique way. Also, very poorly written transition, this is one of the very few PS1 games I can think of where the FMV doesn't look like terrifying soulless garbage. And word on the street is that they were made by a single person as well. Yeah, Konami apparently didn't want to credit the game's artist Takayoshi Sato for the work he already did on the character art. So he actually fucking slept in Konami's offices rendering FMVs for about 2.5 years just to prevent Konami from screwing him over. This is really fucking impressive, but also fuck Konami.